Lord Kerr has enjoyed a notable career as a diplomat. He was a member of the UK Diplomatic Service from 1965 to 2002, and the first to hold its three top jobs. He was ambassador to the EU from 1990 to 1995. He was ambassador to the United States between 1995 and 97, and I bet he's quite glad he's not there now. And he was permanent Under-Secretary in the Foreign Office from 1997 to 2002. He was then Secretary-General of the EU Constitutional Convention, and in 2004 he became an independent crossbench member of the House of Lords, where of course he served on the EU Select Committee. Most of you will know that it was he that drafted the text setting out the procedure for leaving the European Union, Article 50. In a recent interview, he said that he felt no guilt about inventing such a mechanism. After all, it was his job to do so. But he had never imagined that it would be his own country that would be the one to use it. And he has said that he feels indeed very sad about that. His visit here could scarcely be better timed. The EU withdrawal bill goes to the Lords next Tuesday, and I rather think he will find himself participating in a lively debate. And Lord Kerr, I hope this audience here this evening will provide you with a useful warm-up for that event. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What frightening surroundings. My grandfather was a Presbyterian minister in Scotland and preached sermons of immense length. I remember on summer Sunday evenings with the wind shaking the birch trees through the windows, but hearing with relief when he finally got round to 14thly and lastly. I promise you I won't get to 14thly. It is true, I wrote Article 50, and it was a sort of historical accident that it fell to me. I was the Secretary General of President Giscard d'Estaing's convention in Brussels 2002-2003, which had representatives of governments and oppositions and parliaments from every member state and the candidate countries, and in the end produced a constitutional treaty which was thrown out by the French in the referendum. But bits of it survived and went into the Lisbon Treaty, including this. The reason I was Secretary General was an attempt by France and Spain to keep death off the roads. I had given an interview in my last weeks as Permanent Secretary, 5 years, and I stupidly did a colour interview. Mandarins should be neither seen nor heard. But I did an interview with some friendly journalist who said, "What are you going to do when you retire?" And I stupidly told the truth, which was I was going to buy an XJS, an old XJS, and drive very fast to Santiago de Compostela, which is my idea of a pilgrimage. In winter, north of Spain, snowy, that was going to be absolutely wonderful. And within 10 days, I was warned by Spanish friends that the French and Spanish governments had suggested to Giscard that I should be the Secretary General of his convention. So they clearly spotted that the idea of a man with not particularly good eyes driving a particularly fast motor car through France and Spain was a very bad idea. So that's why I was Secretary General. Why we wrote what became Article 50, why we wrote a secession clause, was principally, well, for two reasons. One, to demonstrate, as is the case, that the European Union is a voluntary club. It is not an incipient superstate. And a lot of the things that we were doing were defining more precisely the frontiers of the powers that we were giving to the EU institutions, and making very clear that they could only be expanded by unanimous agreement of all the member states. It seemed appropriate, given that we had an accession clause, to have a cessation clause. And a second reason was that we were remembering a situation in Austria, which had arisen a few years earlier, where a very right-wing president had been, it seemed to most member states, rather out of agreement with the values of the European Union. So a process had started which would now lead and may lead, in the case of Mr. Orban now, to the withdrawal of his voting rights. And thinking about that in the convention, we thought, supposing he then storms out, supposing he's not prepared to be insulted in this way, and to sit below the sun with no voting rights in the European Union, there would be legal chaos. We ought to have a procedure for orderly withdrawal. And that's what we were doing. It wasn't the case that we invented the possibility of getting out. You could always have got out of the European Union. If you stopped paying your subscription, if you stopped turning up at meetings, in due course, people would have noticed that you'd gone. The legal order would be unclear. Which contracts applied indeed? What rights did citizens have and which did they not have? So an orderly withdrawal procedure seemed a good idea. Why did we make it only 2 years? Because you could always leave without a deal. You don't have to have the hours agreement to go. You can always go, which is why some very silly people in this country say the best thing to do would be to leave with no deal at all. That would create a degree of legal chaos which would be very difficult for enterprise and awkward for citizens. It is true, it never occurred to me that the UK would be mad enough to use this argument. And I personally find this a very great tragedy. My grandfather, the Church of Scotland minister, was a chaplain to a Highland regiment at Passchendaele, and he never went back to Germany after the war. My father was a RAMC military doctor, and was the first doctor into Bergen-Belsen on the Lüneburg Heath outside Hamburg, and he never went back to Germany. Both of them spoke very good German, never went to Germany. I have 4 of my 5 children speak German. One went to German school, one went to German university, 2 went to French universities, 1 lives in Brussels, 1 lives in Ireland. I think we are a better world because of the degree of openness. I, as a schoolboy, learned how to fire a 2.2 and a 3.03 rifle against a target in the shape of a man, and that man was a German as far as the CCF was concerned. I was preparing for national service. The British Army was maintaining, under a treaty requirement, 55,000 troops in Germany. And the Germans were not allowed to have a seagoing navy. That was a very strange world. It is a much better world where the idea of coming to blows inside Western Europe has gone. And that is not just about NATO. That's a lot more actually about the degree of cultural and societal convergence which has taken place principally because of Monet's vision and the European Union. So I personally find it a tragedy. I professionally find it a tragedy. When I was Margaret Thatcher's and then John Major's negotiator in Brussels, and then I was John Major's and then Tony Blair's ambassador in Washington. And when I was in Brussels, and the British disagreed with the proposal in areas of foreign security policy, I would explain the British point of view, and my colleagues around the table would be mildly interested. If I slipped into it, and we have reason to believe that if we adopted this course rather than the one recommended, we have reason to believe that the Americans were coming behind us. At that point, my colleagues all picked up their pens and started taking careful notes on what I was saying. And sometimes it was even true that we had reason to believe that the Americans were coming behind us. We were more important in Brussels than we really deserved, because we were thought to be the people closest to the Americans and most likely to move the Americans. I went to Washington and had extremely easy access to President Clinton, who took the British more seriously than he need have, because he believed that if he struck a deal with the British, as in the end he did over Kosovo, the British would sell that deal successfully in Brussels, as in the end we did over Kosovo. I had thought that during my time in the Foreign Office, we buried forever the dispute between the Blue Water School of Diplomacy that the special relationship with America and our wider deployments around the world is where Britain is naturally at home, and those who said, we are a European country, we need to be on very close terms with our neighbours. It was a very stupid dichotomy. It was a false dichotomy, because actually we were stronger in Europe because we were stronger in America, and we were stronger in America and Australia and India and all around the world because we were strong in Europe. And we jolly well were in these days. Two of the three things that were happening while I was permanent representative in Brussels were British policies, British ideas. The single market idea was Margaret Thatcher's idea. Enlargement to the east was a Thatcher idea, run with very hard by John Major. And the third thing we were standing away from, the euro. Two of the three things that were top of the agenda were British policies being driven by the British. The idea that we always lose in Brussels. The idea that foreigners are cleverer than us, that we at the end of the day, we have to give in. It's nonsense. If you talk to the foreigners, they say the British are the hardest to get to an agreement. But we know in the end that the British will deliver on the agreement. They don't break their word. And as a result, and because of our the wider world links, we were powerful in Brussels. And if you talk to the Indians or the Chinese or the Australians or the Canadians, they are sad that we are leaving because they believe that we represented inside the EU an outward-looking, free-trading side to the European Union, more outward-looking than most continental Europe, more free-trading than the French, who are also extremely outward-looking. I think professionally it is very sad to see this country shrink. And that's what will happen if we leave. Dean Acheson, the famous, the British lost an empire and didn't find a role. Well, we have found it. We have found it. Thanks to a great extent to Margaret Thatcher, who insisted on being taken seriously. Thanks to John Major, who was a very effective negotiator. I was beside him at Maastricht. I find it also very sad, and yes, tragic, that the effects of our leaving will hit hardest those who have been hit by austerity and growing inequality, and the feeling that globalization is foe, not friend anymore. The areas where, in this country, where people most voted to leave, northeast and the northwest, they are the areas that will suffer most if we do. If you think about the car industry, Ellesmere Port will not survive if we leave. Sunderland, there will be no new product lines. Disinvestment hasn't started yet. Disinvestment will come, but that's not happening now. And the flow of inward investment is taken off. But it doesn't make sense, particularly if we're outside the customs regime, with just-in-time manufacturing methods. It doesn't make sense to envisage building cars built in Sunderland, 80% of the components are built somewhere else in Europe. And there is a bit of Nissan in Sunderland, which crosses the channel 3 times before it finally goes the 4th time in the finished car on the way out. Now, if you have customs checks, rules of origin checks at the frontier, you cannot run that kind of manufacturing system. I would think that the future of the Airbus wing in Wales would be in serious time. It would probably make sense for Airbus to build the wing closer to Toulouse, or possibly in China, rather than in the UK. The manufacturing industry will be seriously affected, and these are the parts of the country, parts like Sunderland, who were the clearest that we must go. I don't know why. It's something to do with austerity and globalization as foe, not friend. If you talk to people up there, you hear it's immigration, but there are no immigrants in the northeast. It's a conundrum to me. I don't really understand it. But clearly, in our Remain campaign, in which I was a foot soldier, we can do terribly well. The effect on the jobs will be bad. The effect on the NHS will be very bad. And I do think that we need to get across to the public that as the tax take goes down, because growth is not as great as it otherwise would have been, the money available for welfare, and in particular the NHS, is going to drop. Mr. Johnson is not only not telling the truth, he's telling the reverse of the truth. Actually, we need to create in the public mind the understanding that you don't have to choose between Brexit and the NHS. If you want to save the NHS, you have to avoid Brexit. Or at least, in my view. I think Mr. Fox's activities, looking around the world for new free trade agreements with third countries, very worthy. It doesn't work. There is an ineluctable rule when you're talking about trading goods, that trade halves as distance doubles. That is the case. Not the case in services, but it is the case in goods. If you take a country like Belgium, for whom international trade is a bigger part of their GDP than it is in our country, 75% of Belgian trade doesn't go more than 350 miles from the city of Brussels. It's a circle around Brussels, including if you think that it's being in the EU that has meant that our trade performance with third countries has fallen off, you're wrong. The Germans sell 5 times as much to the Chinese as we do. And the Germans are actually in the European Union. It's something to do with our productivity and something to do with our downgrading the importance of engineering. A lot of the stuff the Germans are selling is precision engineering. We don't get out of that by getting out of the European Union. And the idea that Mr. Trump is going to offer us a sweetheart deal is, like Ambassador in Washington, the United States is always a protectionist country, but in my lifetime it hasn't been as protectionist as it is now. We are not going to get a sweetheart deal from Mr. Trump in goods or in services. For a very long time, British financial houses have tried to establish themselves in the American market. If you're a bank, there isn't an American market. You need to satisfy every state that's regulated at the state level. It's always fails. The Midland Bank is the classic example of failure. They bought a successful bank on the West Coast and were screwed by the regulators and lost a lot of money. I ought to talk about how we can get out of this mess. I've been trying to explain why I think it would be a great mistake and why I don't believe that economically we would gain. I believe we would lose very considerably. So how do we get out of it? I wrote a lecture for Open Britain in November, in which I argue what I believe is the case, that legally you can take back an Article 50 notification. It is not an irrevocable act. That is the case. We've just had President Macron here, who has been saying what President Tajani of the European Parliament, and President Juncker of the Commission, and President Tusk of the Council have been saying, and what Mrs. Merkel always said, and even hardman Mr. Schauber always said. Of course they can take it back, and we hope they will. It is the case that we could not be charged a price if we changed our mind and decided to stay. It is alleged by Brexiteers that we would lose the budget rebate, or we would be obliged to join the euro. This is nonsense. While we are a member of the European Union, we are absolutely entitled to change our mind. And we are a member of the European Union up to the moment of our leaving. So we have 14 months left in which we can change our minds. And we cannot be charged any price for changing our minds. The budget rebate, for example, which Mr. Johnson always says we would lose. Mr. Johnson is perhaps not as familiar as I am with the own resources decision, which is the text in which very clever diplomat, not me, before me, embedded Mrs. Thatcher's Fontainebleau achievement. The UK rebate is embedded in the own resources decision, a text which can only be amended by unanimity. It follows that the British would have to get into a fit of extreme absent-mindedness and vote for the removal of their rebate before it could be removed. It seems to me that we've had some pretty odd ministers, but I think we can probably not worry too much about that. There is no price to pay. We can change our mind. How do we bring about a situation in which Britain withdraws the letter? Well, it's quite difficult because the Brexiteers are very keen that we should not detect the consequences of leaving until we've left. And here, the transition period is a new and rather sinister trouble. This term in Brussels, they will negotiate, the 27 and the British, will negotiate a, I think, 21-month, it might be 24-month period after we've left, in which we will be allowed to observe all EU laws and all EU rulings from the Court of Justice, although we will have no no judge in the Court of Justice, no MEPs in the Parliament, and no votes in the Council, and no Commissioner in the Commission, because we will have left. But they will generously allow us, for up to 2 years, probably 21 months, to go on behaving as if nothing has changed. We would be completely a rule taker, but the cliff edge, the drama of everything changing, would be postponed for these 2 years. Of course, as the evil consequences really became clear during these 2 years, it's too late, because the 2-year period starts after you've left. So we have only 14 months to get this right. And that it is not the case that since the transition period will be a standstill period in which nothing has changed, we don't have to worry, we have more time. We don't have more time, we do have to worry. And once we have left, March 2019 when the government's plan, once we have left, we can't get back the terms that we had, that we secured through the efforts of people like Mrs. Thatcher at Fontainebleau. And we do pay a price for coming in, because once we become a third country, like any other third country, if we decide we would like to accede, this is now nothing to do with Article 50. This is a different article of the treaty, and there would be absolutely no hope that we could persuade the Lithuanians or the Latvians or the Bulgarians that we were such a poor country that we deserved a rebate on our budget. So there is, if we came in from outside, there is a big price to pay. I don't think we'd be obliged to join the euro. We'd probably have to make some declaration that when the time is right, we would join the euro. There, on the budget rebate, it stands or falls depending on whether we change our mind before we leave or after we leave. Before we leave, no price to pay. I don't think, although public opinion has moved a bit, I don't think public opinion has yet moved enough to move Parliament. The move is now to something like 53, 52, 47, 48, the right way. So it's been a sort of 4 or 5% swing the right way. But there are two big problems One is that these are people who think we really shouldn't leave, but quite a few of them think, because they bought the Brexiteer line and the Prime Minister's line, that it's a pity, but it's all over. It's a done deal. We sent a letter, so we're on the way out. Hence my speech. That is simply not true. We still can change our minds if we want to. There is also the any number, I don't know how many, who are inclined to think, although they were Remainers, the same thing, that it's all over and rather quickly, can't really back. So I do think a central thing we have to do is to get across the point that we only cross the Rubicon at the end of the 2-year period, i.e. in March 2019. I don't think Parliament will move unless the pressure comes bottom up. I think it is very important that people write to their MP about the likely employment consequences that they are aware of in their area. That is what shifts MPs. I believe that there will be a lot of such letters during the course of this spring and summer, and I think there will be more Tory rebels when we come round to the really decisive votes, which will be in the autumn. The bill that's now in the Lords, and starts in the Lords next week, is a bill dealing with the contingency that we leave and how do we avoid a legal vacuum, and how much of EU law is transposed into UK law, and how much power does the government have to change it without coming near Parliament or coming near the devolved assemblies. That is going to be a fascinating constitutional row which will have absolutely no resonance with the public at large. The autumn round on another bill, which will be the withdrawal implementation bill, and it will be presented at the time when the deal or no deal is presented. And that is going to be when the meaningful votes take place. I think even then, Parliament is unlikely to decide that it can go against the voice of the people. Parliament is unlikely to overturn the referendum without another referendum. But I myself think there is now quite a high chance that by the autumn there will be a majority in the House of Commons who will be saying, yeah, we better consult the people again. It hasn't turned out exactly as the Leave campaign predicted. In fact, it's very different. We better go back and ask the people, is this what you have in mind? I see that as probably the policy of the Labour Party by next winter. It is already the policy of the Lib Dem. I would expect the Labour Party to pinch these throats, partly because it's easy for Mr Corbyn. He doesn't have to say, I would like to remain in the European Union. All he has to say is, the Conservative government have negotiated very, very badly. It's a very bad deal. It's not at all what we were told to expect. We must consult the people again. And then he can be in favour of fair play and all sides getting a proper hearing. And that seems to be a much easier position for him to move to. Well, I am struck by one or two facts that one hears. 90% of members of Momentum, I'm not a member of Momentum, I'm not a member of any party, but 90% of Momentum, I am told, are in favour of our staying in the European Union. 80% of Labour Party members, but 90% of Momentum, because Momentum is very young, and the correlation between age and views on this issue is extremely close in all parties, particularly in the Lib Dem Party and the Labour Party, also the Scottish Nationalist Party. I can foresee a situation in which, if public opinion has shifted another 2 or 3 points, so we're at 67, so 57, 58, 42, 41, and if the Labour Party is demonstrably moving, I can see a situation in which a lot of Tories think it would be quite a good idea to move too, because they are anxious to avoid a Corbyn government. I can't tell you when that happens. I can't tell you if it happens. The central case is still that the government will get its way, cleverly concealing what will happen when we leave until it's too late to anything about it, and we have that is the central case. But I think there is now a growing chance, and one well worth our while fighting for, that provided Parliament realises that this groundswell isn't just public opinion polls, it actually is visible in their postcard, that people are waking up and saying, hang on, this can't be right. And this is going to affect us locally in the following ways. You're our MP, what are you going to do about it? That's what really affects the House of Commons. Don't have confidence in the House of Lords. We are well aware that we are undemocratic and that we have no legitimacy. We're a revising chamber. 90% of our amendments are accepted by the House of Commons, who say it's the most appalling laws, and we improve them considerably. But at the end of the day, if it's a political issue, the House of Lords will give in to the House of Commons. So if the House of Commons is still in favour of, in November, of our leaving the European Union, then the House of Lords will not prevent that. Although the House of Lords is 80% or probably more in favour of our marriage, but it won't, because it feels it would be constitutionally improper. So you have to move the MPs. You have to increase the number of Conservative rebels, not by very many. The Labour Party, if it sees this swing in public opinion, particularly if it sniffs the idea of power, the Labour Party will have very few leavers left. Already it's a very small number. The Lib Dems and the Scottish Nationalists and Greens are already there. It seems to me that there's a 1 in 3 chance of a second referendum, and that is where I think we should be heading. What messages do I think we should be trying to get out? 5. The Brexiteers don't want us to wake up to the price of leaving until we've left. That, I believe, is true. That's the subtle genius of the standstill period. Nothing changes immediately, except we don't get voted on, which I find ignominious for a great country like ours. We should take laws for having no say in what they are. But nothing changes that's visible, because we would still be observing all EU laws before we left, voting left. So we need to get across that they don't want us to spot the downsides until it's too late, until we've already left. So, new facts are emerging all the time. And as new facts emerge, we are entitled to change our minds. That is the case. As a member of the European Union, you can change your mind on anything, and governments frequently do. I've been in the Committee of Parliament Representatives when one of my colleagues who had been impassioned and successful in pursuing a particular line of argument was required to stand on his head and argue the opposite because of a change of government in his capital. Their policy had changed. The right wing was left office, the left wing was in, and this man who convinced us, he absolutely passionately believed in the policy of the right, was arguing very successfully for the policy of the left. This is, it's a democratic institution. They're all democratic governments. If we democratically decided that we wanted to take a different view, we have every right to do that. That extends to one point I should mention. The genius who wrote Article 50 put in it a provision for an extension of the negotiating period. But for an extension, you need the agreement of all the others around the table. Unlike taking back your Article 50 letter, where you need the agreement of no one, just do it. To get an extension beyond March 2019, they would all have to agree. If the prospect was a longer negotiation with, say, Mr. David Davis, or if the prospect was a new government saying, let's renegotiate the terms the Tories got, because they're so awful, I would not be at all confident that the necessary unanimity would be obtained. Because some of them are a bit tired of us now. They all want us to stay, but they are, we haven't been making friends for a considerable number of years, and particularly now. If, on the other hand, we were to say to 27 democracies, we've decided that we need to consult the people. We've decided we need to have a referendum in summer of 2019 or in September of 2019. For that, for passing the necessary laws in order to do that, having a proper campaign, we will need time, so we want you to give us 6 months going from March 19 to, say, September 19. I am 100% confident that we would get the necessary unanimity for that. So it depends what we would be asking for. But it is it is a group of democracies, and they don't want us to go. They would be delighted if we decided we wanted to stay, and there is no way in which they can charge us a price for staying. No way. Fourth point, when the deal is known, that's this autumn, when there will be at least a framework for the future relationship between the EU and the UK. The EU we will have left. When that deal is known, the country needs to decide, is that what we really want? It is not exactly what the leaders told us we would get. This is much less good than we were told. Is that what we really want, or should we stay? And I think, although I hate referenda, I believe in a sort of Burkean parliamentary system, but I think it takes another referendum, and I think since the people have the first word, it would actually be right that they have the last word. So I swallow my objections. It's important to remember that this used to be Mr. Johnson's strategy. This was Dominic Cummings' strategy, a 2-referendum strategy. A first one on the principle of leaving, and secondly on the terms obtained for leaving. That is what Dominic Cummings, as recently as 2015, was arguing for, and Boris was arguing for. And David Cameron wouldn't buy it because he thought it was too static. He thought he might lose the first referendum because people would say, well, we can vote to leave then, and then we can always change our mind in the second one. So he put all his money on the one. A very serious mistake. This is what Rees-Mogg used to argue for, 2 referenda. Rees-Mogg in 2011 was arguing that. And remember, this is my favourite quotation, David Davies in 2012 said in a public speech, the democracy that has lost the right to change its mind has ceased to be a democracy. I think that's quite right. So I think that these are the points that we need to get out. It's not all over. It can still be prevented. There's no price to pay for staying. People need to be consulted again. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Whoever said we've had enough experts, I'd love to hear much more. Thank you so much. Just a couple of things that you didn't touch on that I'm curious about. One is the Irish border. How crucial, how key that is going to be in the events that play out in the autumn. The second one is sovereignty. My father, when I asked him why he voted to leave, that was his one-word answer, was sovereignty. How do we address that concern or that perception that in voting to leave the European Union, Britain has somehow regained control, I hate to use that expression, but has won back the right to determine its own destiny?
Do you want to collect some?
Yep, okay. Right. Sandy?
Thank you very much. Very interesting. I think 2 points. I think writing to MPs, particularly our MP here in St Albans, is probably fairly pointless because she doesn't listen. I think the commentariat is really important. It's actually the people that make the political weather, the people that write the leaders, particularly in the middle range of newspapers, the Mail and so on. Start to shift them and MPs will look. The other point, I think, is on the wording of the referendum. It can't be on the terms of the deal. I think the referendum, I'm very interested about what you say, I think the referendum has to be, we vote to stay. Because on the terms of the deal, I don't know what that achieves at the end. We don't like the deal, we still want to leave. What does it mean? It's actually, I think we have to have a referendum that says, we want to stay, please.
And the gentleman behind you, and then I'll go to Ross Andrew. We'll take 3 at a time.
Yes, just taking further what Sandy Walkington has said, because I was going to ask the same sort of thing. Will it be possible, in a further referendum, to have 3 questions on the ballot paper? 1, do you accept the terms that have been negotiated? Do you, alternatively, and this would be the second one, wish to remain in the European Union? Or thirdly, do you wish to walk away from the European Union? Those are 3 different options.
Okay, shall I have a go at these 3? The last one is a brilliantly subtle, and I would love to believe we could get away with it, because he is brilliantly dividing the leaders. There is one option which is Remainers, and the leaders have 2 options. There are some nutters around who believe that it's, we shouldn't be paying a penny, we should leave with no deal, and so on. They would be in one group, there would be less insane leavers in the second group, and we would win handsomely in the third group. I think that's too good to be true. The Electoral Commission looks at the questions. I thought he got it wrong last time. I thought that the question in the end was the wrong question, and but that was the question. On the Bernstein question, the title question, I'm sorry, I must have misspoke. I meant that the second referendum, the question should be, do you buy this deal or shall we stay? Of course, what the government would like to do is force us into a situation where we say, where they ask Parliament, they don't want a referendum, ask Parliament, do you buy this deal or should we just leave without any deal? Which would force people like me to buy the deal, if that was. So we need to avoid that trap. But I agree with you. It's not just, is this a good deal or a bad deal? The question is, now you've seen the deal, do you want to buy it or do you want to stay? I agree with that. On the commentariat, yes, I very much agree. I think the BBC is now a large part of the problem. The BBC no longer talks about if we leave the European Union. It talks about our leaving the European Union. And that is not just the odd commentator. It is policy in the BBC. And that needs to be challenged very seriously. Even very serious programs, like the Today programme, are getting this very wrong. The country has not decided to leave. We are going through a process which will lead to a decision on whether we leave or not. I thought that the BBC got it wrong in the first referendum too, where with 9/10 of received opinion, elite, horrible word, opinion, expert opinion, going in one direction, and they had to find somebody from the minority, and they always gave that person equal time, and it was very rarely pointed out that most people agreed with Mr. X and not Mr. Y. And that seemed to me to have been the wrong form of impartiality. I understand why they got where they got. I think it was a bad mistake. They are now in a different situation, worse situation, with a directive from the top in the BBC that tells them they're not allowed to suggest that it's an open question. So that does need to be seriously challenged. Then the big questions. Sovereignty. Yes, being a member of a club sees sovereignty. Being a member of the EU sees much less sovereignty than being a member of NATO. The Washington Treaty, the basis of NATO, Article 5, says that if a NATO ally is attacked, we are at war. There is an American general in Europe who takes command of the British Army on day one if Article 5 is invoked. That's massive loss of sovereignty. Security Council, there is some loss of sovereignty to the UN, not much. There is a little more loss of sovereignty to the EU. It's fact. Michael Heseltine's answer to your question is one that's always impressed me. The man lost in the Sahara on his own has absolute sovereignty and will be dead tomorrow. I mean, the ruling of sovereignty does put some heft in your policy. Britain on its own will achieve less in the world for things that we think are worth doing than Britain in a club of 300 million people, which on issues of foreign defence policy is largely motivated and pushed along by the British and the French, to some extent the Spaniards. And in due course the Germans will take on that sort of role too, but they haven't yet. So yes, I think we have to accept that there is a loss of sovereignty. I think the price is well worth paying. Now, of course, this is a very difficult argument to get across, because it's a nuanced argument. I am saying, yes, there's a loss of sovereignty, and that's a good thing. It's much easier just to say, take back control, without saying what we do with our control, without saying how much less powerful we would be if we were simply the island race cut off from the continental landmass. Irish border. I have no idea what is the answer to your question. I have no idea. The December text is a fudge of ludicrous complexity. I produced some very good fudge when I was in university. But this is amazing fudge. It says various incompatible things in a very small number of sentences. There's only one way in which it could be made to make sense. And that would be if the whole of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland stayed inside the customs union and Singapore. Then it makes sense. But the Prime Minister said in her party conference speech in October 2016, and spelled out in her Lancaster House speech in January 2017, and in her Florence speech, and it is the iron pole of her position that we are leaving the single market and the customs union. If we leave the customs union of the European Union has a frontier which runs across Ireland. That's a fact. Mr. Varadkar doesn't want a hard frontier, but he gets no choice. There is in Brussels a committee of customs experts who will say, I'm very sorry, you have to stop the trucks, you've got to look inside, you've got to apply EU rules of origin. They're not actually worried about the farmer driving his cows across the line. People can turn a blind eye to all that. What they're worried about is the Korean company establishing a facility in Belfast or Londonderry for final assembly and packaging of goods, which then creep into the European Union without paying EU tax. So I have no idea how this is going to be resolved. I find it very sinister that the DUP clearly have a lot of the Prime Minister's attention for the very obvious reason that she has no majority if she offends them. Northern Ireland voted to remain in the European Union. It is represented in Parliament by a party that argued to leave the European Union. That party is in a crucial, life-saving alliance with the Conservative Party. This is a bit sinister. At least it doesn't smell good. It may be all perfectly above board, and I certainly have no means of proving that it isn't. It doesn't feel right. However, the negotiators, my successors, they're tasked in the next 3 months. 2 tasks. One is to write the text for the standstill agreement. The second is to turn into legally binding treaty form the December agreement, which you'll remember was about citizens' rights and about the money and about art. On citizens' rights, there are 2 or 3 points still to say, but it's perfectly easy to do. There will be an agreement. On the money, she got away with it. In the party, they didn't revolt when she signed up for war. Well, in fact, nearer 50 billion than 40 billion, once you've added the things where she's accepted a commitment which can't yet be quantified. That's very easy to write down in the treaty. But there's this little bit about Ireland and the frontier, where there is no way in which lawyers can turn into treaty language a text which is pure Alice in Wonderland. You read me? I can believe so many impossible things before. You can't have a treaty article saying that. So I don't know what they're going to do. And I think it's perfectly possible that we will see around February or early March, the deadline for all this work is the European Council at the end of March, we will see a return of the Irish question. Mr. Varadkar is in a difficult position too. If he waits till the very end of the negotiation, the genius who wrote Article 50 said that the EU side, the 27, will decide by a qualified majority. So he can be voted down. And people like the French and the Germans can say, oh, grow up, you're only hard. Which they might do. If it's a European Council meeting before the end of the negotiation, the European Council decides by unanimity. So Mr. Varadkar says, no, honestly, this text is meaningless. We need to do better than this. He wins. So it seems to be quite likely that in February and March there will be a bit of a showdown about Ireland. I think, by the way, that on the standstill agreement, the interim agreement, I'm expecting the government to lie down and not contest any of the things that they've said they would contest, just as on the money they, in the end, lay down. Mr. Johnson's position has been that we will apply EU laws during the interim period, but not any new EU laws and regulations on which we weren't voting. Mr. Gove's position is, yeah, we'll apply everything except not the common fisheries policy. We will take back control of the seas straight away. We will huff and puff and say these sort of things for a few weeks, and then we will give up, because the European Union will say, you either buy the lot or push off. We're not interested in cherry picking. You can't have your cake and eat it. You may buy it. So I don't think that will be a difficult negotiation between us and the Europeans. It may be a problem inside the Tory party. Personally, I think she'll get away with it again in the Tory party, the way she got away with the money. Because the Goves and the Johnsons are so keen to get us out that they are prepared to settle for terms of departure which are pretty unattractive. Because, at least from their point of view, they would have achieved the magic result March 2019 without signing.
Okay. Shall we have some questions from upstairs?
Interesting.
those who really understand the legal situation, the economic situation. There's two things you said, however, that actually struck me as really interesting, because the other stuff is frankly, however much interest I take, just a little above my head. I'm familiar with most of the arguments you advance because I read my newspapers. You said two things which struck me as really interesting. One is the slogan, you're not a democracy if you cannot change your mind. And the second one was, which I'd never heard before, was your quotation from Michael Hasseltine, where you complete control of what you're doing with the Sahara Desert, take your time tomorrow. What I'm trying to make is simply that what we haven't addressed today, as far as I can see, is not the political arguments, the parliamentary arguments, the legal arguments, but what we haven't addressed is how do you persuade the British public against the genius sloganeering of some of the Brexiteers, where the latest one, which has been emphasised only today and yesterday, it's been here around, but it's certainly emphasised today, is we must stop being a vassal state. I'm not interested in arguing the validity of that, it's clearly nonsense. It's neither here nor there, but they have the monopoly of clever, pithy, penetrating slogan ideas. It is irrelevant when one says, and only today, only just one time point. Only today, David Cameron was overheard, however, to say at Davos, it's not really turning out as bad as we all thought, but in the long term, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. I think the pro-Remain movement has got to seriously focus on popular argument. The argument of the will of the British people has to be made
Thank you,
clear.
sir. Can we move on to any more hands up here?
I understand the position of the House of Lords and why they're not going to override the Commons in those circumstances. But do you think an exception might be made to that by the introduction of the next another referendum being made in the Lords? And what effect do you think that would have on Do you think the House of Lords might be the place that the requirement for another referendum might be introduced?
One more?
I heard Nick Clegg speaking recently, a few days ago, he was speaking on the radio. He was saying, and I appreciate that one of the people in the audience tonight I heard Nick Clegg speaking recently, saying how people should write to their MPs, especially MPs, the Conservative Party MPs. And I appreciate that somebody has said that it was no good writing to St Albans MP, but we from East Nuts in Europe, we've been actually writing to our local MP. And what he said is that to write the MP, saying, well, if when we think how it's going to be in the future of the Conservative Party, if we leave the European Union, that the effect it may have upon the jobs and the futures of the younger people, okay, people far younger than me, and actually point out to them why it may be doing great damage in the near future to the Conservative Party. The Conservative MPs may want to dwell on that fact if it comes to a vote about terms, or if it comes possibly to the vote about having another referendum.
Gentleman to my left was asking for a slogan for the Remainers. How about only the rich can afford Brexit?
Okay, I was very struck by the Irish referendum on gay marriage. 6 months before the vote, Ireland was more than 60-40 against gay marriage, with the church strongly against it. The campaign was talk to your granny. You and your partner went and talked to your granny, talked to the golden oldies, and introduced your partner and persuaded the golden oldies that the partner was actually quite nice. And that it seemed a bit rough that the marriage wasn't possible. And the result was something like 60-40 the other way in the outcome. Now, if you look at the very close correlation between vote leave, remain, and age, you discover that there is only a majority for leaving of over 45s. And of under 30s, there's a huge majority in favour of remains. Unfortunately, these idle kids didn't all vote. Partly because it coincided with Glastonbury, and some of them were registered home and running universities, all sorts of things went on. But the turnout was very poor. The actual voting, the young voted heavily. I think that the answer to the first question is yes, I think we have to get away from high-flown politics, and I think that's quite right. It's things like the Erasmus program, the ability to go and study abroad and have a lot of fun as a kid. It's things like the research programs. And it's the feeling the young have that they really don't want to be confined on our little island. They like the Eurail. I'm not sure they have a Eurail card anymore, but they talk to your granny is my answer. I think that one wants to mobilise the population bottom up. Second, no longer a vassal state. The time when we really will be a vassal state will be during this 2-year withdrawal period, when we have no say in the laws of our land, and we're written for us in Brussels, and we have no escape because we've already left. That is the sort of status that Canada had before it became a self-governing dominion quite a long time ago. The imperial power laid down its laws. The imperial power is going to be Brussels. That is not where we are now. The trouble with the European Union is that it's too slow-moving as a legislator. It is too democratic. You have a council which consists of the elected governments of the member states. You have a parliament which is directly elected by the people of the member states. They, on most legislation now, have co-equal power. You have a commission which, yes, it's independent, of course it is, but it is all elected by the European Parliament, having first elected the president, who then collects the list of his commissioners. That it used to be in the hands of the council, it's now shared between the council and the parliament. This procedure of co-legislation between parliament and council makes for an immensely slow procedure. As a negotiator, I found it very irritating. But my God, it's democratic. I'm quite tall Mandarin. I don't believe in democracy at all. I believe in the role of people like me. Vassal state is complete nonsense. We are a rule maker. One of the two of the three policies of the European Union are policies invented in this country. Not the euro. She resisted the euro very strongly. Major wisely decided they were going to do it anyway. And the best thing to do would be to make sure it emerged in a UK-friendly way, which it did. The other two, enlargement of the single market, British white papers, Commission white papers written by Brits, laws forced through, overcoming German protectionists, French protectionists, Spanish protectionists, Italian protectionists. In my time, I had to argue against the French, who maintained that there was something special about French snow, And the only ski instructors who could instruct how to ski in France were French. They were the only ones who knew about French snow. In Italy, I had to deal with the argument strongly held by the successive Italian governments, and they succeeded each other very fast in these days, that if you were going to teach English in Italy, you had to be a native Italian. Which, well, there's some logic to, but a clear breach of the principles of the European Union. We won these cases. Yes, to some extent, it's a supranational power, but a supranational power, in the good sense, it's trying to increase the rights of the individual and companies across the Union of 27. So I'm not too worried about the vassal state argument. I do think that when you talk about Project Fear, you are quite right. I think that Mr. Osborne's threatened crisis budget was a very great mistake. It is the case that the short-term economic effects of the referendum result are not at all what Mr. Osborne said. It is not been proved, and I think it will not be proved, that the Treasury and the bank were wrong in their medium-term forecast. Already we have dropped to the bottom of the growth league table. We were at the top in G7, we're now at the bottom of the league table. Because that's not as apparent as perhaps it should be to the public at large, because the whole world is going up. We're going for a very good period. So it's only a relative damage that we've suffered. It's not absolute damage. The economy is going to be bigger next year than it is this year. And people aren't really aware that actually we're only getting 1.6 or 1.7%, and the rest of the European Union is getting 2.9 or 3. There people are not aware of that. But it is the case, in my view, that the Treasury and the bank will be proved right in the medium term. Alas, we will already have left. That's why I come round to the fact you've got 14 months to sort this out. Last question, House of Lords and the second referendum. The Lib Dems will propose an amendment to the bill. Dick Newby will introduce it next week for a second referendum. In my view, it will not carry in the House of Lords now, and I don't agree with it. I think the demand for the referendum has to emerge bottom up. It has to emerge from a dawning realization we're getting a very bad deal here, that we were told a pack of lies, that this, or at least more tactfully, that new facts have come to light. Creating a demand among the public. If that demand, and it's already a majority view in the country, it would be quite a good idea to have a referendum. If that builds, then it seems to me, in the autumn, when we have the real parliamentary crunch, that is the time for referendum amendments, motions, resolutions. But I think the Lib Dems, they are consistent. They have always said this, and they are going to say it again now. And I think it's premature, but the Newby leads the Lib Dems and the Lords. I don't.
Take one more group, Fiona.
Yeah. So, this side. Yeah, okay, we'll let Daisy go first, all right.
Thank you. John, I was really pleased to hear you talk about the NHS. You know my view on this. I think it was the NHS what won it for the Leave campaign, and I think it will be the NHS that is their undoing, and it certainly should be. You also talked about new facts. Well, these are the new facts. The new facts are that 10,000 health workers have left the NHS in the year after the Brexit vote, 22% increase on the previous year. The squeeze on the exchange rate value of the pound is going to really hurt the NHS this year as procurement contracts come up for renewal. And if we do have to leave the Medicines Agency, then we're going to see that new cutting-edge drugs will not be available and people will die. Those drugs will not be available to save lives. Why aren't we hearing that debate in either house in Parliament? It's an absolutely critical argument. The NHS what won it, it can't be their undoing, but we have to hear MPs and the Lords having those vigorous debates. There are MPs like Sarah Williston, a Conservative, who changed from being a Brexiteer to a Remainer over the lies about the 350 million, choosing extraordinary work on the cross-party select committee, demanding that the government even just do some basic analysis and audit of the impact of Brexit on the NHS, which isn't happening. Why aren't we hearing it? And I urge you to do something about it if you can. Thank you.
Thank you. It's two, but I have to be brief ones. Firstly, as I understand it, it's almost not next March that everything needs to be agreed by this autumn because of things needing to go through various other approval processes in Europe. Do we actually have the time to get to the point of having these agreements in place? Particularly if the Tories keep on pushing the how cake and eat it and it's got to be bespoke and etc., which just adds complication. So, so it just doesn't seem like it can happen. To which end, actually, your point on Ireland, the only thing that works is to stay in the single market and customs union. That's kind of like the only agreement which can get agreed then by the autumn. But what that leaves us then is a kind of like a split between, and this is like, what's our position? We either end up with a leave which is really bad for us, and we would be continuing to make the argument it's really bad, but that hasn't worked. Or it's a Brexit in name only because we've signed up to stay in the single market and the customs union because Theresa May has like turned her back on everything that she's proposed so far. Why she's not going to turn around and do another U-turn on these? And then it's the point where I say, is there an argument saying, look, it's no point. There is no point left in leaving because you're not getting any of the things you wanted, so we might as well just stay. So there's like two arguments. Either it's too painful, or it's not painful enough, and it's pointless. I'm not sure if that turned into a question.
Hello. Sorry, two really quick questions again. So there's an Article 50 challenge that's going through at the moment saying that the government haven't actually gone through a process which will allow them to trigger Article 50. I'm interested to know if you think that will have any effect. The second question is to do with EU residents in the UK. We have letters being sent by the Home Office saying, you're all safe now, everything's sorted, don't worry. What happens in the event of a no deal? Are any residents safe at
all? Another way of putting upward pressure on Parliament, I think, is to have demonstrations throughout the country, and especially perhaps a march on Parliament. How much importance do you give to this? And do we need to be giving people more notice than we currently are when demonstrations are going to happen so that they can get themselves out and prepare themselves for the day? Okay, thank you. Starting with the NHS, I think it's an absolutely crucial central point. The NHS is the UK religion. NHS is the UK religion. The NHS is going to be badly damaged. It's already being damaged. These statistics on nurses are really striking. In addition, there is a price that we are paying already. The Medicines Agency moving away from London off to Amsterdam. That is a very serious blow. Particularly to me, I was the bloke who got the Medicines Agency to London, doing a whole lot of dirty deals with other people I have seen. But it is a huge employer, and having Europe's regulator of pharmaceutical standards in the UK has been a massive advantage to the NHS, and particularly to the great research hospital universities like St Mary's and the whole of the Imperial Trust and the UCL. stress is that we are going to lose quite a lot on that. And the imaging centre in King's Cross doesn't make up for it. Good thing. I think we need to get the public to understand, because it is religion, that Brexit is an attack on the NHS. Too painful or not painful enough? I'm going to answer that. I think you're right. On Ireland, I don't see the way through here. Somebody has to back down. The British government said we will not have a hard border in Ireland, nor will we have a frontier in the Irish Sea, breaking up the United Kingdom. Nor will have Ireland, nor will we stay in the customs union. Presumably, the way out that people are, if they've thought it through, have in mind is that the Irish should feel obliged to come out of the Republic, to come out of customs union and single market with it. That is absolutely not going to happen. There is no chance whatsoever of that happening. The sort of issues which have produced referenda in the Republic in the past on EU matters have never raised the question that we stupidly raised, shall we be members of it? They were, do you buy the following additional treaty, or shall we just keep the rules of the game as they are now? The likely vote to leave the customs union or the single market in Ireland is under 15%. So Ireland is not going to do that. And there will be considerable resentment among small member states across the European Union if we are thought to be fully in the Irish. I think there's a greater risk, actually, that the French and Germans are bullying Mr. Varadkar. If they see that nearly everything is settled, why should we be held up by the Irish? Let's just go on fudging it. There'll have to be something kind of frontier, but it won't be till the end of the transition period, because the British have said they'll stay inside or respect customs union rules and single market rules for their period of transition, in which they will have no say on these rules. So we can push it away 2 years down the line. So please tell Mr. Varadkar not to use the city. I can see that happening, but I don't see how you turn that into a treaty. I'm very glad I've not got the job of writing treaties anymore. The challenges to Article 50. I think the government is pretty copper-bottomed on that now, to be honest. They passed a bill at the insistence of the Supreme Court. In the Miller case, they passed a bill through both houses authorising them to send the letter. And although there are legal arguments that that wasn't sufficient, I think probably it was, given that there's a third check, they argue, the majority party, or at least the largest party, following an election in which they were clear about what they had done. I don't, by the way, still know why we sent the letter on the 29th of March last year. It was a very odd thing to do. Remember that we didn't have a position. We still don't know what is the permanent arrangement that we want. Cabinet had a first session on it before Christmas. Wonderful, they got round to it. That's only 9 months after they sent the letter. Second thing we did, immediately we sent in the letter, we decided to have an election and took 2 months off. So the first round of negotiation came in July. Now that is bonkers. If you've only got 2 years to play with, you really shouldn't waste the first 4 months like that. And I still think it would have been better to have decided and told the country where they wanted us to end up. The country had voted to leave, yes, but it hadn't said where it wanted to go. What sort of relationship with the agreement? And I think that's a big mistake. Home Office letters, what happens if there is a breakdown and the deal on citizens' rights is not translated into law? I don't know. I believe it is a shocking, dreadful thing, which both sides are responsible, that we dragged citizens into this negotiation at all. And I was one of those in the House of Commons who made a tremendous fuss, arguing that we needed a voluntary gesture, saying nobody who's in this country legally now is going to have to go. And we should have done that. We were even asked by the representatives of the UK residents in continental Europe. All their associations wrote to all MPs and members of the House of Lords saying, please do that. The government are saying that we are a card in the negotiation and they mustn't be nice to the foreigners in Britain until they're sure the foreigners are going to be nice to the Brits in foreign countries. The Association of Expatriate Brits all believed that they would be the more secure if we had made the sensible voluntary gesture, because they believe that their governments would all have willingly or been shamed into doing exactly the same. I think that's completely correct. So there should never be a negotiation at all. Now it is in the negotiation, I don't know. Mrs. May was quite a ferocious Home Secretary. Some of these letters that are going out are going to categories of people who I suspect Mrs. May or Mr. Timothy rather wishes were not being given the right to remain forever. So if there is no deal, I don't know.
Well, I think we're going to wrap up there. I'd like to say an enormous thank you to you, Kerr, for your time with fascinating talk this evening.